All right. I got an old one of you on here, Justin. Let's start with that.
Already, already not liking it.
Oh,
I think I watched this. It honestly, it's kind of cool when I do have your old ones because I think it's also really easy to see like
the difference.
yeah, the difference in your movement. So even though it's like you're like, God damn it, it's actually kind of cool. I would say your shoulders feel better than they did in this video now versus back then. That's
Yeah,
like
you
my
can tell.
first, that's for sure my first thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll share something pretty interesting too. So yesterday's workout, we had the dumbbell snatch, right? And we had the option to go either like 70 or 50 or something like that. Well, like I think the last time I tried to do a dumbbell snatch, I think that my max was like 40, maybe 45. And I've been doing all this shoulder stability work for the last like 3 months. Ton of TRX stuff, external, internal rotation, overhead stuff, a lot of strict press. And I was like, all right, we'll see how this goes. I have not done
A
any
lot,
kind of
a lot of really good strengthening, but also a lot of really good like prehab too. Like it's best of
yeah,
both worlds.
mostly not as much like overhead pressing, but a lot of like the TRX stuff and like all PT kind of stuff. And so then yesterday I was like, all right, let's give it a try. I haven't tried this overhead snatch kind of position in a while, single arm. I did 50 pounds. I was like, damn, it was light. It felt so
Oh,
stable.
good.
It wasn't it feel like it didn't feel like I was getting so strong and pressing it up, but it was like in the catch position, it just stuck. And like that to me was all of the TRX, all of the kind of
It's,
prehab stuff.
I think we said it like Tuesday or last week. Like it's different in just like raw strength, like press, than like a stabilization that happens there. And that's like, I think I'm pretty good at both, but like I think that's why like personally I do so well on like snatching because I can get there and I'm just good at holding it there versus a lot of people have troubles. I saw that a lot yesterday coaching that class. Like people the dumbbell would rock it up and you could tell it wasn't heavy to get over their head, but then they would land and it was like this was just a dog fight every single time. And then there was people, that it would look heavy on the up and then they would stick it, and it's like they could hang out there all day. So I think that's a good observation you had, and something like I actually saw happen while coaching that live. It's nice to know all that stuff pays off, right? It makes you, it like remotivates you to continue to do the stuff you're supposed to be doing. I would say. I know that's how I react.
And I
Yeah.
think also to kind of carry over to here, um, in the bottom position of my squat, it's just all instability. And then if you look at D, any kind of heavy lift, and she comes to the bottom of the squat, she sticks it. It's like there's just no shake, no movement. I'm like, okay, that's the next thing for me is like get my squat stability as well, which I've been doing those
I think
isometric
it's a
holds
comfort
too.
thing too. I definitely think
Yeah.
it's a comfort level because like when I ran the snatch series here last month, one of the things is like we did we did just like a free clinic. So I got to see people move kind of before planning out the series like in total. And one of the things like observing in class, but then also seeing people move like in that initial launch was there was just such a lack of comfort, a lack of confidence, stability as well, because like knees were caving in, heels are coming off the ground. So you see all these things happening as well, like in it. And that was like my main thing to them. I was like, we have to get comfortable in these positions. Like we're never gonna be able to snatch well and be PRing and hit these, high loads if you're just simply not comfortable in the bottom of a squat, let alone an overhead squat. So I think that is really spot on. And he's a good example. Like she does get down there and the bottom of the squat doesn't stress her out at all. Like, she's there and it may be heavy, but it's a comfortable position. She can sit there even if it is heavy. Um, I'm with you on that. That's something I think I've gotten a lot better, but like struggle with. What are you doing for that? Just pauses and isometrics, you said?
Yeah, I've been doing isometrics at the bottom of the squat.
With load or like air squat also?
I'll put the a barbell on my back and put some J hooks and just press into the J hooks at the squat position.
Oh, okay. Like an immovable object.
Yeah.
That those are great. I really like those. Also work your air squat with it. So like work all of them. Like sometimes the load is on you and it's assisting you down there a little bit. You don't got to get crazy heavy. The isometric like immovable objects really good for strength building, but also like air squat it and try to perfect the air squat because now you're not just doing the stability, the strength, and like getting comfortable. You're also working the neurological part of it of movement as well. Because if you, let's say you get comfortable with the load on your back or in the isometric hold, and now it's time to land in the bottom of a squat snatch or in the bottom of a fast clean, and it's quick. You want the neurological skill to be able to mimic and duplicate that position over and over and over as well too. Um, Squat therapy on the wall is really good. I like it with the barbell. Have you ever seen it when the barbell's across the rig?
Yeah.
Put your hands over the bar. So like you can, instead of like facing a wall, you can lay a barbell across the rig. And what I like about it is you can kind of make the degree harder or easier depending on the height of the bar. And you'll just stand in front of the bar and your arms are over it. And when you squat, you don't touch the bar. So obviously, as you're going down, you have to lift up and maintain that posture. To me, it's a lot more comfortable than like squat therapy facing the wall. So that would be a good one. Like you have that isometric setup going, hit your holds, whatever sets you're doing, and then come off of it and try to do a perfect, 5 to 10 reps of like perfect tempo air squats. I think that would like double down your efficacy.
I had
You guys remember that word?
efficacy.
Efficiency and efficacy. That's a level 1.
I know.
It's a hard one. It is.
But yeah.
Long time to try to wrap my head around that one. Getting the progress and like getting our fitness as fast as possible, but in a way that's never going to become detrimental. Basically,
that
makes sense.
Efficacy.
That's efficiency and efficacy. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Like getting our fitness and our gains as fast as possible, right? That's our goal, but in a way that's always going to remain safe and never put anything in like a detrimental spot. So like a really good example is, coming to class, working really hard in class, doing the things you're doing versus it's your first month at CrossFit and you're like, I'm going to do mayhem compete, right? It may be efficient in your fitness. It may not have a lot of efficacy for somebody because they may start to end up with little nagging things because it was way too much, too fast, too intense. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What were you going to say about your squat just now?
I was going to say that the girl I'm programming for, she told me she doesn't feel good in an overhead squat. So this week I had her accumulate 50 overhead squats just with the PVC pipe, focusing on positions, and on tempo down because I want to start getting her comfortable in that position.
So people don't like this, but if you want to get better in a position, getting in the position is what's going to move the needle the fastest. Obviously, that needs to be in a safe environment, in a safe way. So like I think PVC pipes, a great way to do it. I wouldn't load up a barbell overhead squat, but yeah, get into the position. I just had this conversation. We have a PT here, Dr. Laurel, and she did like a little coaches clinic for us where she just kind of like let us lead the way and ask questions, things like that. I love it because I'll ask questions of like stuff I've encountered and courses I've taken to like get just more reassurance that I'm doing the right thing. And one of the conversations we had was I wanted to know about front rack. And I'm like, look, we have all these fancy little ways to get the lats going, external rotation going, triceps and stuff like that. But I was like, I just think doing a front rack hold would still kind of be the best way. And she was like 100%. She was like, all the stuff we're going through and like on the rollers and different mobilizations and all this stuff. She was like, if you're not doing that and then immediately going to the movement you're doing it for and going through range of motion and trying to reinforce, she was like, you're just going to double, triple your time in improving it. She was like, if you're working on your hips for an air squat, do all your mobilization homework. And then she was like, you need to squat afterward. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. So it still came back to whatever movement you're trying to improve, get into that and work it. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. I first squatted on this weekend. I did a warm up that like got my body temperature up a lot. I did some of the PVC, like that prayer stretch where you do front rack, like a front rack opener. And then I just loaded the barbell moderately. As I was flowing my warm up, I wasn't squatting. I was just unracking the bar and doing 20, 30-second holds. I will 100% say it was probably the best my front rack has felt in years. And I mixed that mobility with the actual position. And I think that's really what it was. Obviously, getting nice and warm always is going to help too. Justin's like perfecting his front rack over there. I actually want to talk about it. So this is good timing. Let's go to when you're there.
No, I'm doing all that because I'm already annoyed by my shoulder position. It was internally rotated from the get-go. Shoulders getting shrugged as opposed to pulling it back and getting the lats involved.
This this position is an interesting one to me, right? Because like look where the bar's actually lying. Like what would you guys say there? It's like on the collarbone, right?
It is. So he needs to have active shoulders when he receives the bar.
Yeah, I actually want to see, and I think this is a weird one, and it's going to make sense because you're right. We need the lats involved, but I think what happens is a lot of people get into a front rack position, right? And they're going about to do a heavy jerk, and when we're pulling the bar off the ground, we're always lats, down and back, down and back. Well, if we're here and we go down and back, yes, that's going to create tension back here, but where do my shoulders go? They go down and back to get out of the way. Lats can still be on if I'm shrugging up into it. It's actually my lat that's pushing up into my scapulas. Sorry, my elbows are right in the camera. I didn't realize. That's actually supporting. So lats on in this position. Now look where my shoulders go. Now I have this huge shelf for that barbell to sit on, right? And you see it a lot of times in like higher level Olympic weightlifting, and the elbows don't go from here. Actually, where your elbows are, I'm happy with. They could maybe be just like a small notch forward, but they're like down and out a little bit. They're in a very strong pressing position versus a lot of times people are just completely here. And that's like a tricep extension, right? It's like a freaking skull crusher, right? We're not going to press strong here. We're going to press strong from here. Elbows need to be in front so it's racked, but puffing the lats up and pushing the lats into the scaps will help create that better shelf. And then we still have tension that's going on back here. Does that make sense? As far as your clean and everything goes, I feel like you've gotten a lot better on that. So I don't want to sit there and harp on it because I already think you're making good strides. But that's like something you can start to implement and practice there as well. And you got a good grip on the bar, like your fingers are on, all that good stuff. That shelf will make it a little easier though to be a little stronger in here and not so much weight bearing down on the wrist too.
The dip looks pretty good.
Dip is pretty good.
Or is that the receive?
No. He's dipping here.
Okay.
How do you like my hand versus elbow position? Like my elbows are more tucked in, my hands are a little bit further out versus being completely stacked. Does that make a difference?
See, where you are here, because how tight you are up in this position, right? I think the wider hands is definitely beneficial for you. I would still try not to let the elbows collapsing in. Like even though the hands are wider, we still want to be out, right? The tricky thing there is like, I don't know what your external rotation is, and that may contribute to where you're at. But I think for this specific video, the hands being wider is helping that overhead position for you. So you kind of have to be there. But they don't need to be perfectly stacked. So I don't overstress that. Just you don't want the elbows coming. Have you ever seen those people? Some people are like really like dramatic about it, and it's like their hands are out here and their elbows come like all the way in, and it's like their elbows are close together. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not much tension there. It's just kind of like one of these like soft front racks going on. I don't really think you're doing that. I would just something to be mindful. It would be more of this that I would like to see here. When you coach that in class, that's when you have to like that's where setup where you're gonna walk around the room and you're gonna static cue setups is so important because everybody just kind of gets there and it lays and most people are not in a good position at all. And even if someone's like me, I have a really tight front rack and an empty barbell doesn't lay on my shoulders. That's how tight I am. I can at least mimic that position and get very close to it. And then as soon as I have 15s on, it sits down. Um, that's one where I get in front of people and I'm like, hey, shrug for me, get the bar up by your throat. They don't like it, obviously, but sometimes people have the bar like down here and they're not going to be able to even do this. So yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. We got to get it higher so it's actually on the shoulders. Shrug for me, and then I just guide their elbows very softly. I never like work somebody. Most people can actually get into the position, even though they act like they can't and they act like they're trying. Right. And that's where I'm like, hey man, it sucks. I know. I hate it too. 14 years, still fucking hate it. But like a little effort goes a really long way. And there's just something about saying a little effort goes a long way. You don't want to be that guy that can't give a little effort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Next time,
actually put that in my progression. I think it was this week or last week for the first time, and I think I blowed people's minds because I saw a
this
lot of just having them in the front rack and then telling them to shrug up because I noticed a lot of them it was just on their collarbone. So I was like, okay, now let's like shrug up with the bar, and that's actually having like active
and
shoulders.
it's
And they're like, oh shit.
it's kind of actually really funny because if you think about it and you go, okay, I'm gonna have this barbell here, right? And I'm gonna jerk this bar. And the point is to get as much load from the ground to overhead as possible, right? I do a clean and jerk. Just think about like someone that's decently strong. You're gonna have a dude with 300 pounds with a barbell on his collarbone. No,
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
zero sense. So when you're at 65 pounds and you're like, I can't do it, you're virtually telling me you have no desire to ever do better on this lift. And sometimes just breaking things down like that helps people understand you're not being a dick. Like you're
Yeah.
helping their position for later on. And I say that in class all the time. We had dumbbell snatches last week, right? And everyone's swinging like kettlebell swinging the dumbbell snatch out. And I'm like, I understand you're getting a good rep for filled. Well, guess what? What did we have yesterday, Justin? We had heavy fucking dumbbell snatch.
I
And
didn't swing any of them.
no longer can you sit there and swing a 70-pound dumbbell out and around. It don't work very
Oh
well.
no.
So I was like, last week when I coached y'all to zip that awkward jacket up and you rolled your eyes at me, here you go. It backfired. And I think for a lot of people, it clicked on why mechanics are so important, besides safety.
I
And
will say,
it was such a good I told you so moment without saying it. I really enjoyed it, I must say.
well, yesterday during the warm up, all I can remember was the damn call about that same conversation we had about the swing. I'm like, well, I was kind of mixing in because we had like a high volume, but then yeah, yesterday
You're
I
like,
couldn't do
oh,
that, and I was like, I'm
yeah.
not going to attempt. I'm just going to try to do good form, and I was like, well, I couldn't do it anyways. This thing is just so damn heavy. But
Yeah. I mean, there's
yeah,
no
it
way.
did feel great.
I got like uber fucked over and I had to do a 90 because I didn't want to take a 70 away from like anybody in class and someone grabbed the 80. So I was like, well, I either go 90 or I go 50. And I
Shit.
was like, we're going to go
Goddamn.
for it. I scaled the reps down. I dropped it to 6. I had programmed 8 with the original games the WOD was. And I had to do dumbbell split snatches because I
That's
couldn't
awesome though.
I couldn't stop starfishing. So I was like, I already have a weird knee right now. So I was like, I'm gonna change this up. So I did split snatches because I felt like it was a safer version for me. And that was the way I needed to actually get under. So it just goes to show like if I don't ever focus and do well on my split, jerks, and I focus on getting my footwork right, what also happens to me in that position? Now I'm going to be failing dumbbell snatches because I don't have another skill to get under well, and that was a split snatch. So that's why like functional movement is so beautiful because it's all this stuff we do in life, and then there's all this layover that also happens in other movements, even though we're not thinking about it. What are you gonna say? You raised your hand.
Yes, I was gonna ask first, did you take video? And second, that's actually a good movement to go over on one of
Like a
these calls
split,
because we haven't gone over that.
like a split snatch, dumbbell
Yeah,
split snatch.
yeah.
And also too, it's one of my
Or
favorite
or
movements.
even the dumbbell split
Split
jerk.
jerk.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movements because it really blends like load and weightlifting with our neurological system and skill.
Yeah.
When the games programmed it, I don't know if you guys remember this, they had, I want to say it was hang clean and single arm split jerk, and you had to do whatever arm it was,
Opposite
the
leg.
opposite leg had to go out.
Crazy.
So as you alternated, you had to know how to split on both sides. Dude, you could be a brute, but you ain't got no skill. You're in deep shit, right?
Yeah.
And I did that for not all of them yesterday. I kind of played with it. There was a point in time where the exhaustion just got me, so I just started doing strong leg and trying to keep the speed. So it's cool to see all these things come in. I'll get a video of that though. I'll do them again because they are kind of fun. They are kind of cool. And
Yeah, I remember you programmed
talk
it
about
for
'em.
us, I think, at some point, a long time ago.
It's
Or
a
at least for me.
movement. It's a movement and also split jerks. Because like Justin, when's the last time you seen a split jerk in Mayhem?
Oh, shit, yeah.
I've never seen a
You
split
don't
jerk.
do it a lot.
Never. So like the other day we had bike box jumps and burpees. And I think Mayhem had put in a pump. I took it out. It was already a long workout. It was like a 24, 26-minute workout. So like you could just run that in class and kind of warm it up real good. I did a split jerk. Class came in. I was like, hey guys, we got some simple stuff today. Let's do something we haven't done ever. And I did a split jerk progression, and I gave them an 8-minute clock to where they can get some load on and actually practice. And people were like, oh man, I've never even done that. So like getting creative too in your classes, like just because what's exactly on the whiteboard, if you've got the time and you're able to, and you can move the needle on skill, take advantage of that, man. Like you're just going above and beyond for them. They're paying a lot of money to be in your class and be at the gym. Like they'll appreciate it. I always like to try to obviously keep it on the realm of what we're doing in class, but doesn't always have to, be that perfect way. But yeah, you guys play with some of those like dumbbell split jerks, dumbbell split snatch, split clean, all that stuff. Have fun with it. On that topic, where would a split snatch or a split clean, more split snatch here? I'm thinking of it. What kind of athlete would that really benefit? This is a hard question.
You mean with a dumbbell?
Let's go barbell. Let's think of Olympic weightlifting here.
I think it
hard
benefits
question.
who has a limitation with a deep squat.
You're on the right track. So when you start to see, especially masters, right? They got 50 years of a thoracic spine that's tight.
Oh, I understand your question.
Hips, ankles, things like that. You see a lot of masters Olympic weightlifters revert to a barbell split snatch because it allows them to get under more with their tighter shoulders and tighter hips. So it's a really good
mobility issue.
Yeah. It's a mobility issue. And we know, if you're 60 years old and you're a weightlifter, are we gonna really be able to undo all of that 60 years of shit they've been doing poorly in time for them to compete and things like that? Likely no. So yeah, a barbell split snatch can be a really good thing for them to learn and do to be able to efficiently, get under the barbell, because you can have more thoracic movement in that position versus landing in a squat snatch. So that's a good one. We have someone here I actually want to teach to, because he's Ron. You met Ron Viana.
Yeah.
He's pretty tight. He'll get ass to grass on a overhead squat, Justin, but it's like the mobility is just not there. He's just really strong to where he can hold the barbell from going forward. But I mean, imagine if that guy had a split snatch. He'd probably snatch 155, 160, and he's, mid 60s. He's got a crazy strong pull. Let's go. Let's go me. I wish Issa was on the call because I told her to go do this, but I'll tell her to watch the recording. I'll have to zoom it up at certain points. All right, pusher. Right, we were doing it in class, and I was like, I might as well film myself because it's good to know. Like we've talked about your own movement while you're doing it. So first progression, jump and land. What do you guys think on that? Let's watch this one more time. I had a couple thoughts because obviously I think I'm moving one way and then I'm seeing it. So it's easy for me to like nail something. What do you think?
I like your first 2 reps because you're dipping straight down.
That one was good.
Yes. As you progress, you're kind of leaning forward a little bit more. The third one is the
got worse.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That was something I immediately noticed. I think I did that kind of inadvertently because my knee was hurting. And it just felt better to send my hip back. But yeah, that was my first thing. I was like, damn, I think I'm like perfect. And even on those first 2, they are not. Like my shoulders do still get in front of the hips and there is a little bit of a teeter. So it's just something for me to be aware of. There's something else I noticed in these 2. If you guys can catch it. It's not that it's wrong, but thinking on the thought of when I give a visual cue. If someone's doing something in class and I'm going to give them a visual cue and I go, hey, this is what you're doing. What am I going to do in that visual cue when I'm going to mimic them? I'm going to
exaggerate. Yeah.
Right. So if someone's not opening their hips on a snatch, I'm not going to get to here. I'm going to do that. Right. So it's really, really clear that they didn't open their hips so they can see it. They're not a coach. They don't have coach's eyes. We need to make it very clear. So when I watch this, it's not bad, but I think I need to make this more clear of my butt back and down on the landing. Right. I think if I get just a hair more squatty, it's going to be a lot easier to visually see versus I harp on this all the time. And then I look at this and I'm like, it's not even that much. I think I can send that thing back way more and it be just more glaring. So it's not that I'm landing bad. I just think I need to make it very, very evident of how I want them to land in this.
In your demos. Okay.
In my demos. Exactly. Just like the handstand push-up demo. That one where I was like, I thought my head was in this great tripod. And then I look and I'm like, oh shit, I'm like more like fingertips. I in my head, I'm Dave Durante. And then I'm like, oh shit. Like definitely not Dave Durante. So yeah, make it more glaring. That's why filming your demos and these things I think are so important because I'm like, man, I thought I was not totally different, but I thought I was definitely different here.
So the other day in class we had push jerks and I made part of my progression was to have them go to the wall and have them, like I said, butt and shoulders should always be on the, I've told, we know that tactic.
Yeah, for the dip.
Yeah. So then I had them do like 3 reps like that. And then I said, okay, now take a step forward and let's do the exact same thing. And all of them nailed it. I was so impressed. So
that was good.
Yeah.
No, that was really good. There's definitely little things that you can do to stage it well. And that is such a good example of teaching. If you teach effective, you've already cued everybody else in avoiding faults versus if you don't teach that effective and now you dip and drive, what happens? You go, oh shit, 9 out of 10 people just went forward. That's going to be a lot harder to correct. And now you got to undo your plan a little bit. And what happens? Slight chaos starts to happen. You start to lose time and things like that. So that's a really good thing. That's why, like, when we talked about lesson planning and like your lesson plan needs to fucking be on point and people, I don't say people, you guys know this, you know who I'm talking about when I say people, other coaches just don't fucking get it, like that's a great example.
Yeah, I
Let's
do have to admit, like I at the beginning of coaching, like I'm always on and off with my lesson plans. Like sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm just focusing on what Cap says. But the past 2 weeks I have been like avoiding looking at Cap, and I've
and
just done it
making your
on
own.
my own. And I feel like I've changed so much, like for the
You
better.
feel like I was gonna say you feel like you're better because you have to
I
also
I
think.
do.
Imagine if I went, hey Deanna, you have to program Cap, or hey Justin, you have to program Mayhem, and you need to write a lesson plan. And you go, okay, I'm not writing a lesson plan for me. Like I get shit and I know who the coaches are that get shit. I'm writing a lesson plan for someone that has maybe been on the floor coaching a week and knows shit about fuck, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have to, they're creating these plans to be successful across the entire board. It's like if you're gonna write a nutrition plan for 100,000 people, it's got to be real vague and real, it's got to go in the right direction, but you can't be perfect on things because every other person is going to be different. So that's, I think, how coaches should use like the Mayhem lesson plans and the Cap lesson plans, like use that as a learning experience to a point, and you need to get to a point to where you are confident in doing it on your own.
Seriously, it makes such a difference. You feel so much
It,
more prepared. It's wild.
I mean,
yeah,
I'll
and
give you my
Jim,
feedback as an athlete too. When SoFlo went from using Mayhem as like warm up, and they let all the
they're
coaches
on.
do their own, so much better. The warm up got so much better. Everything was more entertaining. Everything was different, and the
Coaches can
coaches
be themselves
they can
more,
care about it
even.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on with that. And I make tweaks. I know SoFlo, y'all make tweaks on Mayhem's programming. I see your stories don't always match up with what we did today and stuff like that. And, I make tweaks all the time. I made a tweak too yesterday. We didn't run 175 meters. I don't got that shit spray painted on the road. I got 200 spray painted on the road. Let's make things easy and let's go to just 200. It's 25 more meters. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
However, the original stimulus goal time now starts to get tweaked a little bit. And I know the affiliate was 6 dumbbell snatches. I was like, I want to do game style. Let's go to 8. So I made these little tweaks. I did my own lesson plan. I knew what stimulus was going to work. The coaches that didn't do their lesson plan, it no longer worked. And
Lost.
they're like, I don't get
Yeah.
it. What the fuck is going on? I'm telling people to do this, and now it's impossible to do this. Well, it's because they didn't lesson plan, or that they don't have the skills to actually say this is going to take this long, and this long, and this is a good window to be in.
But also ask. I mean, it goes to show that they're not preparing at all. Like just
100%.
look at it, ask.
And also sharing mine, and I circled my stimulus I did, and guess what worked that day? That one, so it that's a thing. And then also we had a couple girls here that are very fit dropping in, and they did that workout in like 8:10. They smoked everybody, right? I even delayed them by a full minute to catch class and had class run from them. That's a good tool to use, by the way, for you guys. If you got really fit people in your class, they don't start with class. They start a minute, 2 minutes behind. They get to chase somebody now, and it gets real competitive as far as that and gives them a drive. And then what happens to my normal classmates? They're running from somebody now. So they're also pushing their fitness and getting better intensity, getting a better workout, and getting fitter. So it works for both parties. But like that too, like that comprehension of how quick it was, like everyone was like, they didn't run as far. And I'm like, no, they're just that much fitter than you. But yeah, the lesson planning, it's just a really good example of how important that shit actually is. Let's go to the second progression. I think I punch here at some point. There it is. I was waiting for the cue. What do you guys think about this one?
I think you have great timing. I would just move your elbows forward to mimic more of the front rack.
I agree. So it's awesome you said the timing of this, because when I do this progression for class, I intentionally make it very evident that I have jumped before I punch. So when we go back to the last one and making things very glaringly evident, look what you just did. You immediately identified how well of a job that was. And you know now as an athlete that you need to jump before you punch those hands. So good observation. And I agree with you here. I thought my elbows were more in front. Now I watched the video and I'm like, holy crap, your terrible front rack is showing here. My elbows are like almost on the side of my body. So like I go to level 4, I go coach a push stricken class. I'm gonna go from doing this now to this. And like that's gonna look way better. And to me, it feels like my elbows right now, even me looking at the screen, I feel like I'm pushing them straight forward and I look like an idiot. But then I turn and I look at myself and I'm like, oh no, they're actually still pointed out.
Yeah.
But it's just where I am and degree. All I'm saying is that's a cool ass picture I stopped on. Look at that extension and those hands still on the shoulder.
It is, but look at your ankles.
My flexion.
Yeah. Like you can still have more extension from your ankles. Like you don't have
You're not
extension.
Wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong. I know when I Olympic weightlift, I do have triple extension. I'm probably doing that because there is something else I'm doing here when I do this, right? What do you think it is based on those ankles? I don't know that everyone's gonna actually even see that because I said about the timing.
You're trying to stay on your heels.
Yeah, I'm stomping my feet down and making that evident. So I think by focusing that, I'm that's another really good catch. Like I didn't know I was flexing my ankles like that. I'm accidentally doing that. I have a tendency to always be toesy, so I have to make sure when I land here in front of class, I'm not gonna land on my toes, right? Good catch though. I do know on a barbell for me, I don't do it, so that's a good thing.
So what are a couple good cues for that? Because I have a few people in class that do that. And I think I try to tell them to like imagine you're jumping on a box, but that doesn't always work. So what
they're also probably doing is I would almost put money on it. They're so focused on that they're not extending anywhere. Like you're probably seeing the ankles because it's very glaring, but they're also probably not hitting knee or hip. So they're probably lifting and they're real good about landing, but because they're so thinking about their landing, they're probably lifting everything like that, right? And they're never extending anything. So
but what if they're not? But what if they're not?
I would bet $100 on it. Take a video of them without cueing them.
Okay. But let's say, what if they're not?
I would just
look
really
at you. What would you tell what would you tell yourself to do?
In that progression, I would not cue them on that.
Okay, but
personally.
But
let's say they're doing that on a heavy jerk. You know, I still don't know that I would cue it on it because I'm going to tell you partly why. I think the moment that I try to get them extended into their toes, what do you think they're going to do?
Get toesy.
They're going to lean forward and they're going to jump through their toes. They're going to jump through the ball of their feet. So that's why I'd be real hesitant. If they're hitting this extension so well, like you got to remember, I'm not loaded at all here.
Yeah, if you're loaded, it's different.
They're getting to that point. Oof, I just don't even think I would. Do we need to be? I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know that I know the answer totally.
Because like I have this guy in the morning.
I would just highly doubt that guy is hitting the same hip extension and knee extension that I am here with flexed feet, with load, with a barbell. I would be willing to guess, and I'd be willing to almost put money that the knee or the hip, one of those still does have flexion. And the reason I'm saying it is my cue would be jump.
Jump, yeah.
Would be jump.
Okay, I'll take video of him next.
Take a video. Take a video without trying to fuck with him and cue him, and let's see. We'll drag it slow-mo because it may be very slight. You know, like I said, Hunter is a really good example of this. Hunter hits hip extension, pointing like he's here. He hits hip extension, but if you watch his knees, he never extends his knees. He opens his hip every time, but the knees are always buckled. So is he really hitting a full extension? No. It looks good because of his hips, but he's got more to actually get power from. So sometimes, and that was a mistake I was making, was I was looking at hips, 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 and I'm like, it's there. And then all of a sudden I started looking at hips and double checking myself on knees, and I'm like, oh dang, no, they actually got some more to do. So take your eyes on both of those
Okay.
points.
Okay.
Yeah, take a video and then we'll look at it. But yeah, I
Okay.
would. I would just jump. I would be too nervous to start to talk about like what their foot's gonna do, because I think a lot of people get confused as it is and they try to jump through the balls of their feet like a box jump anyway. And not that that's this like big fault. I've like done a bunch of research on it. It's not. A lot of Olympic coaches don't try to change it as long as the weight distribution is staying good. So there is people that get real toesy real soon, but they never get yanked forward. So it's a really tricky one. Is why
Okay.
I think that's partly why I just don't know that I would even totally address it. Let's go last one, PVC.
So, but okay, I let's say we have a very advanced athlete that even with heavy weight, they're not extending their, or with weight on the bar, they're not extending their ankles. Would you have them do a few jumps, like high jumps, like you said, with the PVC pipe at the top or something, to see
I
if
think
it changes?
at that point where you have an elite athlete doing it and they are hitting a good extension everywhere. We probably need to go to skill work. Like, I don't know that you're going to be able to fix that in that moment in time. So like, what would you do skill work wise that would fix that?
Squat jumps, maybe?
No. I mean, maybe,
Okay.
maybe I got a different one that would mimic
Or
the
just
position a lot
literally,
easier.
just literally jumping.
So there's two versions of clean pulls I like. I like the clean pull or the snatch pull where boom, and we just relax it. And then there's another version where people need to work on triple extension, where they get here and they hold and then they come down.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's probably what I would have them work on.
Okay. I like that.
I think the PVC is not half bad. Let's see.
I think your elbows can still go a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
They're
going to be
better.
super honest with you here. I'm cranking as hard as I can on my chin and neck right now.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a long-term fix. But yeah, I think you're right. I think they could be a little more glaring, I would say.
It's better though.
But I still like the timing.
Yeah.
Still definitely focusing on stomping. So I got that ankle thing before the point of the movement. I think not bad. I still dip forward a hair. I'm still a little forward on that dip. It's not perfect. It could be better. But definitely good example of like why you should record yourselves. All right, let's pull up one Elise video. I got to take my headphones off so you can hear her. We'll at least watch the first one, or we'll drag through this to be the last thing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm opening the wrong thing. They go in order, so I got to make sure I play the right one. Yes, this is the right one.
Wait, I thought you were gonna have the volume on.
I'm working on it. I don't think it's working.
Oh. Well, because you lowered it down.
There you go. No, you're right. That was a brain fart moment. Good catch. I was like, great, it doesn't work, and I just tried this shit. All right.
The kettlebell complex today, guys, is 2 movements. Okay, so when you see a complex, it's a combination of 2 movements or more. So today is just 2 movements. Today is a hang kettlebell snatch into a kettlebell thruster. This is what it looks like. The kettlebell stand up, hang.
So pretty. God damn it.
Okay, that counts as 1 rep. Okay, we're gonna break it up into sections, and then we're gonna combine everything into 1 movement. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to do just a Russian swing. You're gonna do 1 swing and stop. What I'm looking for here is the aggression of your hips. For those of you guys that are with me here last Friday, we did these as well. Okay. With obviously 2 kettlebells, it's a little bit heavier and a little bit more difficult. So I really want to see that nice hinge and aggressive hip extension or thrust. We can all laugh about it. We're all adults here. It's fine. Okay. So this is what I'm looking for. When I say go, okay. See how aggressive.
Did you guys notice anything yet?
She's crushing it.
She is, but she fucked up already, actually. This is why coaching's fun, because you think you crushed it, and then someone else goes, nope. So her demonstration, she picked up her kettlebell. She went all the way to the top like a barbell. Then she hinged, started her hips, did her snatch, and then the thing. She's showing something totally different here. She's showing the kettlebell hike, which I love. But I think when she demonstrated the entire movement, she should not have picked it up and deadlifted it like a barbell. She should have done the she's doing here directly into it, because now there's going to be some people that are smart and they're going to pick it up and do it how she just did it. And then when everyone's going to do her kettlebell hike and while she's doing this, and then all of a sudden in the workout, she's going to be like, why the fuck is everybody picking it up, deadlifting it, then going? And that is just the smallest subtle thing that it's potentially going to cause her more issues down the road. And she's like, why aren't you hiking it? Very small, not a big deal, but just it goes to show sometimes devil's in the details.
I'm coming through, okay?
I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to go to assume that she has already taught in maybe her general warm-up a good morning, right? Same movement pattern. Good morning is a great general warm-up thing because we're also teaching and moving skill. And I'm going to go ahead and also assume she's already done a kettlebell deadlift that also mimics that good morning, or RDL. Either one could work really good. RDL is probably better because you can get the shoulder engagement. I'm going to assume she already taught that because she's talking about her hinge here. If she has already taught that, she can save a lot of talking time and just go, hey, we've already done the hinge. That's going to stay the same. What I want y'all to focus on now is the hip extension or the thrust.
Stand up
Thrust is
tall,
probably
stand
better
up
term.
forward, squeeze the butt, and bring it back down. Okay, we're gonna go on my call. Have the kettlebell slightly in front of you.
She fixed that though. Kind of.
It's a good what?
Never mind. Continue. Never mind.
I really like a good for her, good observation. Kettlebells in front of you. She, even though this is a movement where maybe we're not thinking of setup, she's looking at, you see her eyes going set up, set up, set up, set up, set up. She's making sure everyone's kettlebells and stance is all in the right spot right now. So you should shift that guy back.
Something also I wanted to mention is that we kind of talked about this like maybe last week, is making a teaching moment with like using anatomical language with more like real life language. So she made multiple points of saying hip extension and hip thrust. So now people will leave this and probably associate hip extension with hip thrusting as now this kind of learning moment.
Yeah, like jargon and then easy terminology. This is just my personal stylistic thing. She makes a little funny joke about it. I like stuff like that in class. Like I like to banter and things like that. Not everyone loves it, but it goes to show her personality too, which I actually think is very important in this as well.
Absolutely.
Just 1 second. Yep. So I want more. You kind of just came through. I want more like concise, quick. Okay, back down. Go. Good, great. So come through here. Just stand up tall, okay, and squeeze here. Okay, ready, go.
Something she did really good there. I don't love the girls like bicep curl, right?
Yeah.
If she addresses this, but her teaching point was the hip extension in position, and she stays on her teaching point, right?
Yeah.
She gave the feedback related to that. That's a really good habit to have.
That was good, yeah.
Ready, go. Good, nice, good. I want to see more of a hinge instead of a squat. Okay. Yeah, think about.
It just stays on exactly what your teaching point was.
Do a couple more here, guys. Ready, go. Better aggression, Sam.
You see this guy, how he just picked it up? He's blending what her first demo was.
Yeah, I
and
noticed.
He fucked it up. So there's a good example of why that first demo and how it's exactly how you're going to want it is going to be so important. What I would say, she's doing a really good job at hitting every person, right? Fucking crush that. Absolutely. Most coaches don't do that at all. They do a very poor job. So I absolutely love that. When she is hitting each person, The one thing I'm gonna question, and I don't know what's in her head, is I saw somebody that pulled those kettlebells before the hip extension went. She's teaching the powerful hip extension. That's going with it. That's why she's teaching that. So I would just question, did her eyes go to that and the hip? Because I saw one person miss that fault, and that was a point where she could have corrected. So even though she's doing a great job, part of my little feedback to her would, hey, make sure your eyes go to there, watch that, and like know exactly what you're looking for. You're not just maybe looking for that perfect hinge. Let's make sure, because we are talking about the hinge, what's the point of that? Timing and getting that kettlebell to fly up. So having her static scan the room that she did a great job on, but then also being very dynamic with the cueing too.
But then if she's focusing on the hip extension, focusing on the timing are two different things.
No, they're not.
That,
They're gonna go hand in hand. Who cares about hip extension if we don't have the timing right? Who cares if someone jumps really good on a barbell snatch, but they have great extension, but their whole movement's this. We don't love that.
Well, yeah,
That's a
okay.
violation of
I
why
see
we're
your
even
point.
doing a hip extension, right? I think she's doing a fucking awesome job, and she is really on the positioning and the hip extension that's happening. But looking for those things too, like is that going to move the needle on her coaching, ability if she can do the timing with it as well? Maybe she's about to do that in her next layer though too. So we'll see.
That's what I was kind of wondering.
better aggression, Sam. Stand up tall, Rach. Just one time. And one more. I know, you're still waking up. Go. Good. Everyone, yeah, everyone, go. One more.
Camera guy is kind of tough because you can't tell. Because they're all he early pulled, she's early pulling.
Brush with the hips, and you'll see
Let's
why.
see if that's a teaching point. Because maybe
Snatch, okay?
no, she's gonna skip
If you
it.
guys have a watch on, either turn your face so it's on the palmer side, or take. So when we snatch, okay, the kettlebell's not gonna come up and slam the wrist.
So back to like that point. Now she's teaching that turnover. This is definitely the hardest part to do. But she's teaching that. It's such a nightmare. That turnover, she never actually then taught
The
that
timing.
extension. She talked about squeezing the butt, but like she didn't teach it or actually coach it. So like if this was a level 4, she just failed teaching, it's incomplete, and she also failed seeing and correcting. Like that's just, and obviously she's not going for a level 4 right now, but like even if you never try, if you're trying to coach at that degree, you're just be a fucking absolute standout coach. Let's watch her turnover.
Even why, when we catch the kettlebell is gonna land on her wrist, okay? So when we snatch, okay, the kettlebell's not gonna come up and slam the wrist. I'm not looking for that. You need to have control. So when we do cleats, it's control. If you snatch, it's control. How do we control? One is your grip. Your grip helps, okay? Wrist needs to stay flat and a tighter grip to control when the kettlebell comes around. Secondly, think about punching the air. You guys ever played egg toss? Right? You gotta catch like that. That's what your wrist is doing. You're getting underneath it and punching the air so it lands soft. So it looks like this. Go to the side. We'll see how I kind of came through, under, and punched through. That's how the kettlebell lands soft, okay? Don't worry.
What do we think about this? I have a couple thoughts.
I thought you shouldn't have a super strong grip because of the turnover.
Which she's like, she is saying that. I think she's trying to relay that, but she never actually says a relaxed grip.
Right. That's what I thought.
In her head, like she did say that kind of, or like is on that track, but she never actually said it should be a pretty loose grip. She went for your grip matters, 100% right. Yeah, and then she went to the wrist, and she didn't actually talk about, do I squeeze it? Do I not squeeze it? Have you
Oh,
guys seen
yeah.
the hand job girl on Instagram by any chance? She's
No.
teaching a kettlebell clean, and she goes, kettlebell cleans are like giving a hand job. You don't want to death grip it. And it's kind of funny. Obviously, don't say that in class. But I'm like, she got the damn point across of what that grip's gonna be like on that kettlebell. Yeah, so I think she should have said a soft, like loose grip on it.
Okay.
This is where you see simpler movements start to pay off on dynamic movements. If I'm kettlebell swinging and we see that people that have these little T-Rex arms happening right now, right? That shouldn't be an intentional thing. But when we do a Russian kettlebell swing and that kettlebell's pointed that way, we're already losing, right? We need the butt of that kettlebell to start to be drifting up. The reason we're going to kettlebell swing like that and we have that drift up is now when I turn over a clean or I turn over a snatch, that kettlebell has already moved more than half of the distance it needs to move to turn over my hand, rather than going from pointing all the way that way the whole time. And then when it gets to the top, have to do 100 degrees of turnover. It only has to do an additional 20 degrees turnover if I've already got the butt of the kettlebell now pointing up because of its momentum. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, but is there a point that you have to like kind of
You're gonna flick and push through.
right? So it's not like your hand doesn't stay straight necessarily. It kind of you do have this I don't know how you call it, but from here you go like here kind of.
Yeah, you have
No?
this like little flick through. Even if you're doing this amazing flick through, but the kettlebell's pointing all the way that way, it's still gonna turn all the way around and smash you. We need to start that degree of turning. So now when I add that little
On the
like
way up.
through punch, it only needs to turn a little bit more degrees, and there's our nice soft landing, right?
Okay.
Do you guys want
Yeah.
to see it? I have kettlebells here. Do you want to see a quick demo on that?
Yeah, fuck yeah, go.
I'm gonna stop sharing so my screen's bigger.
Okay. She does it so pretty though. God.
Really good at it. Remember, she's a kettlebell monster.
I know. She's so good. So jealous.
All right. So watch my Russian swing. I want you to pay attention to the bottom of the kettlebell and how that's going to start to actually drift up here. And then you'll see when I go to clean, when I go to snatch, I have that momentum.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I'm already flicking up, and that's our simpler movement. So now when I snatch, it's very fast. But the bottom of that kettlebell is already facing up. It's in this zone here. So now when it's up here, it's already most of the way around. So it's just another 20 degrees that I just got to give a little shove, stiff arm, active shoulder. And it's nice and soft.
Yeah. Okay.
I think when people coach kettlebell snatch and kettlebell clean, holy shit, I'm out of breath from 2 reps. They miss that point, and everyone's kettlebell doing Russian swings with the kettlebell. It's pointing completely out, and they got these straight arms. So you go to this advanced movement, and it just rocks their world. Make sense?
Yeah.
I've never seen it before.
Questions on that?
I've never seen it coached. I've never seen it before like that. Makes sense. I've never seen it.
Like actually getting into it. I think they're one of the funnest movements to do if you can do them well. If you can't do them well and it starts and you're getting here and that whole thing has to still hook around and it starts smashing you, dude, it's a nightmare. And a lot of coaches, I think, just auto go to, hey, let's dumbbell snatch today. Or, dumbbell clean today, which fitness is fitness. Someone's going to still get fitter, but all those skills are not going to get developed.
So then another movement we can go over is the kettlebell snatch and the kettlebell clean.
We can do kettlebell clean too. We'll get I'll make sure Elise can get on those calls as well, because that's her jam. She does them so well. It's just those little weird nuancy points that she could probably coach them better. I actually think she did a great job coaching them, because I think if you take that movement and you put that in the field of CrossFit coaching, 1 out of 10 coaches do it even close. Well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the time, it's going to be a dumpster fire on those movements, because people haven't even freaking seen them or coached them ever. But but let's like just recap some goods. Her demo is really nice. Just a one of those real clear things that we talked about, like in my progression, that she can do a little better on. I love that she checked the room on the statics and the setups. I think she should maintain that and make sure she does that every rep, just in case people do start to get wider, narrower, move around, shit like that. I like that she looks at one person every time there's a dynamic, so she has that habit down really good. That's a hard habit to develop sometimes. And just writing out a lesson plan. If she reads it and goes hip extension and hinge.
Yep, we lost him. Hello.
He gone.
Yeah, I'll get back on.
All right. Well, take it easy, D.
Okay, bye.
Bye.